Hi there, I'm Kate McClellan, and I've been a professional wedding planner for over 20 years now. I started Planning Collective when I noticed that though most couples are super excited about getting engaged, they quickly feel overwhelmed and intimidated by the actual process of planning their weddings. If left unchecked, this can lead to massive burnout and the urge to scrap all your plans and just elope. While this is totally normal, you don't have to sacrifice your sanity for your dream wedding. In the Wedding Planning Collective podcast, I'm going to share the processes, tips, and tools that all engaged couples like you need to feel confident, supported, and excited about your wedding plans again. Let's get started. Hey there, before we get to the episode, I have a quick question for you. Have you been unsuccessfully trying to shake that feeling that you're forgetting something when it comes to your wedding? You've got the Knot app and you've downloaded countless other planning checklists, but you just can't get rid of that sneaking suspicion that there's something you don't know yet. It's a very common feeling when it comes to wedding planning. So much so that I decided to put together a free resource to help get rid of what I call FOWO, the fear of wedding oversight. Yes, it does include that 12-month task checklist, but that's just the start. In addition to the ultimate wedding planning checklist, my new Don't Forget list also includes a wedding vendor checklist, your shopping list, a packing list for the wedding weekend, and a complete wedding item setup list to make sure that you are truly not forgetting anything when it comes to your wedding. And you heard me right, this list is free for you to grab right now. Just head over to planningcollective.com/forgetting and it's all yours. That's planningcollective.com/FORGETTING, and let's get rid of that FOWO together. All right, let's get on to the episode. Hey guys, Kate here. Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Planning Collective podcast. After taking a pause with the podcast for the first part of wedding season, I am really excited to be back sharing more tips and wedding planning advice for you. And for this first episode back, I want to talk about something that we've actually discussed before, and that is using AI, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, any of those tools to help you with the wedding planning process. AI has obviously become a huge part of our everyday lives, and it can be wildly helpful, especially when it comes to wedding planning. But there are a ton of downsides too, just like everything else. So we're going to go through all of that in today's episode. Before we really dive in though, I want to let you know that I've put together a companion guide of sorts for today's episode. It's called the AI Wedding Planning Cheat Sheet, and it's got about 30 prompts to help you actually use AI well in your wedding planning process. We'll talk about that in more detail in just a bit, but you can grab the guide at planningcollective.com/AI. One of the reasons I really wanted to focus on this and put together a guide is because I get really nervous when I see brides on Reddit or TikTok saying that they're using ChatGPT or Claude for their wedding planning. And again, it can be super helpful, but we've all seen a lot of really crazy AI things out there. And I know some people are just so nervous about it that they are very anti-AI. That's not where we're coming from here with this episode. I want you to embrace it. I want you to use it, but I also want you to be smart about it. So that's what we're going to talk about here in this episode. I shared a story a while back about how I needed an image of a stressed out bride for something I was working on. And of course, I went to, I think it was ChatGPT or maybe Canva's AI tool at the time. And I asked for just an image of a stressed out bride. I didn't give it any more context or anything like that. I just wanted to kind of see what it came up with. And the image that I got was perfect. It was like a cartoon-like image. I will link it somehow connected to this episode. But it was a woman in a dress with her veil, clearly very stressed out. She had her hands or her head in her hands at a table, paper scattered everywhere, coffee spilled. And clearly this was a woman that was stressed out by planning her wedding. So it was perfect, right? The kicker though is the 5 half-eaten sandwiches that were also scattered around the table in front of her. Why were there sandwiches? I didn't say anything about sandwiches in what I gave to the AI tool to create this image. And why would it decide like, oh, you know what this image needs? Sandwiches. And we laugh at these images and videos that we see on social media all the time that are so clearly fake. This image was not trying to pass off as being like a real stressed out bride. It was very clearly a cartoon. But we've also all been tricked by those videos where we either can't tell if it's real or not, or we legitimately think it's real. We send it to somebody and then we look at the comments and we realize, ooh, that one got us. Sometimes these things are so easy to spot the fake, and sometimes it's not so obvious, right? Especially when we're not talking about images or audio, right? When we don't have that visual or audio cue that tells us that something is fake, it can be really hard to determine what is real and what is fake. And AI can be so confident about it, right? It gives you an answer that you're not sure about, or maybe you know 100% is wrong, and you push back a little bit and it's like, oh yeah, I was totally wrong. You're right. How is that helpful? So, when it comes to planning your wedding, the really scary part is that these AI mistakes aren't so easy to spot. There's no random sandwich or glitching bouquet in the background that warns you that this is fake or incorrect information. Instead, you get things that look like a perfect wedding day timeline, right? But maybe it doesn't have any time for you to actually get dressed or drive from point A to point B. A budget breakdown that has a floral budget of $500 for a 150-person wedding. Or a list of top-rated photographers in your area, but two of them don't exist. One of them closed 10 years ago, and the other one doesn't even do weddings. It's one thing to waste your time chasing down vendors that don't exist or have been out of business for a while, but if you don't realize that something is off with your advice on a timeline or a budget, because as I hear from couples all the time, you've never done this before. You don't know what you don't know yet, right? For so many couples, this is the first and only time that they are planning a wedding. Maybe there should be sandwiches all over your table. And all this makes it so easy to trust AI because it can be so confident with what it tells you, even when it is confidently wrong. But again, it's not all bad either. I know it's controversial for many reasons, but this episode isn't to tell you not to use AI while you're planning your wedding, but just to make sure that you're doing it in a smart way. And here's the one thing that I think it's really important to understand before we get into AI and how we use it. AI, regardless of what platform you're using, is only as good as the information that you give it and where it gets its answers from. Vague questions get vague answers. Generic questions, generic answers. No context about your wedding and what you're trying to plan means that you're going to get responses that don't actually apply to your wedding. So before you use any AI prompts, there are a few things that you need to have figured out first. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, these things are going to sound pretty familiar because whether you're using AI or not for wedding planning, these two things that you need to talk about first are so important to the foundation. Number one is your wedding priorities. 3 to 5 things that are the most important to you: photography, food, a live band, keeping the guest list small. What are the things that are super important to the two of you as a couple? And what are the things that are simply not as important to you? Number 2 is knowing your big picture budget. Now, this isn't necessarily a detailed breakdown and spreadsheets that are all set, but you really need to have an understanding of not how much your dream wedding would cost, but how much do you actually have to spend? Who's contributing to the wedding and how much are they comfortable contributing? It can be a range. Again, we're not looking for like detailed specifics, but without knowing what your big picture number is, again, what you actually have to spend on the wedding, not what the knot is telling you the average wedding cost is or what you think you should have, but like what do you actually have available to you to pay for the wedding? What is that number that is so important to have before you can do anything else wedding planning related, whether we're talking about AI or traditional old school planning? Of course, I'm really glossing over those first two steps. If you want more information on how to really get into your priorities and your budget, head back to episode 139. Are you planning your wedding backwards? I go in deep onto both of the priorities and the budget so you can get more details there. But let's talk about where AI genuinely shines when it comes to wedding planning. The first and I think most important or beneficial category is writing or wording. So anything that you need to use words for. A lot of us have stared at a blank screen trying to write your vows, wedding website, a vendor email, really anything, AI can really get you unstuck fast. Some prompts that you can try: I need help brainstorming personalized vow ideas based on what I love most about my partner. Then take the ideas and put them into your own words. Number two, can you write an FAQ section for our wedding website covering dress code, parking, kids, and plus ones? Number three, draft a professional email to a florist asking about availability, pricing, and what's included in their packages. Or help me write a polite but clear message letting the guests know our reception is adults only. In all of these examples, you're not asking AI to be you. I know some people feel that it can be really impersonal to use AI for things like this, especially if we're talking like vows or invitation wording. But you're asking it to get you started, right? I have never been a writer. I don't enjoy it. So when it comes to things like putting a blog post together, I can sit there and stare at it for days, right? It just makes me uncomfortable. But when I feel like I can have a conversation and just share details, you can literally just record your voice into whatever tool you're using. Let it get the basic information. So just do a brain dump of everything you want to say if we're talking about vows. Do a brain dump of everything you love about your partner in your voice. Tell ChatGPT, tell Claude everything you love about your partner, anything that you think is important, the story of how you met, your proposal, and then ask it to help you craft your vows. It's still your voice, it's still you, it's just helping you pull it together, right? Second category, brainstorming and inspiration. AI can be an amazing thought partner when everything feels so overwhelming, which I know happens a lot in wedding planning. So some prompts to help you get through this is asking for a color palette idea based on your season and your venue, or maybe you have one particular color, but you're not sure what other colors go with it. Whatever that initial inspiration is, it can help you build that color palette or mood board around that. Having it help you with signature cocktail names or hashtags, especially if you want to throw in something personal like your dog's name or an inside joke. It can be an amazing resource to help with that. Helping you find inspiration for like eco-friendly alternatives to traditional wedding details. It is really good at giving you a long list of options so you can pick what actually feels right for you, but they might be options that wouldn't have crossed your path without a search. The third category is budget and timeline structure. I want to be careful with this one here because both of these categories can be super helpful with AI, but there is so much potential for it to go downhill quickly if you're not careful. AI can help you build a starting structure for both your budget and your timeline. I think it can be fantastic to give your total budget, your guest count, your priorities, and ask for suggestions on how to allocate the different percentages across the categories. Super useful and helpful. It can help you save hours to get this basic structure. You can give it your ceremony time, reception end time, and some key details, of course, and ask it to sketch out a rough timeline. Great starting point. But, and this is the most important part, you never want to treat what it gives you as like the final answer. We'll talk about that more in just a second. Category 4 is vendor communication. Now, AI is not great at helping you find vendors, which we'll talk about again in a little bit. But it is great with helping you communicate with them. Here are some prompts that could be helpful. What questions should we be asking at a venue walkthrough? What should I look for when choosing a wedding photographer? Or what questions should we ask while interviewing wedding photographers? Can you help me compare these 3 vendor quotes and organize them into a chart for me? Or write a polite message letting a vendor know we've decided to go in a different direction. These are all things that AI handles really well, and again, can save you a lot of time from just like staring at a blank screen for hours. So those are some of the categories that I think AI can be really helpful with. Again, grab the AI wedding planning cheat sheet at planningcollective.com/AI, and I have 30 prompts that you can use to help you with the planning process. Now I want to talk a little bit about the real cautionary tales of AI when it comes to wedding planning. The wedding day timeline is probably the thing that makes me the most nervous probably because it's the most common thing people recommend using it for. I see it all the time again in posts like, oh, I used ChatGPT, I used Claude to do my wedding day timeline. And I get it, it seems logical. You plug in your ceremony time, reception time, and your details. But after 20 years of planning weddings, I can tell you that a wedding day timeline is one of those things that is crucial to you enjoying your wedding day. And there are so many variables that come into play that to have a computer just generate a timeline for you is never going to be realistic. Your venue's specific rules, how long you have your photographer for, how long do they need for portraits, for family photos, how big is your family, what's the distance between the locations, and so many other details that are going to impact your timeline for your day that are specific to you and your wedding. So again, you can use it to get the skeleton of your timeline, to get the draft of it. But please make sure that you are having somebody that knows your details. Hopefully you have a planner that you're working with, or at least a day of or month of coordinator, or your photographer. Make sure that you are talking to your vendors and creating a custom version of what it gives you. And of course, keep an eye out for our wedding day timeline review sessions. I'm going to start doing those more often for those outside of the membership. So keep an eye on social media for those. As I mentioned, I was really shocked by this, that AI is not good for helping you find vendors. I've tested this pretty thoroughly. I go back every once in a while to see if it's gotten any better. But anytime I do a search for whatever vendor in different categories, I pretty consistently get incorrect information back, whether it is outdated information, vendors that are no longer in business, or maybe they're giving me vendors that are in different states altogether. Maybe they're not wedding vendors. It can be really tricky to feel like you're getting reliable details on vendors through AI. Now, again, not the end of the world if you get a whole bunch of recommendations that turn out to not be a good fit. I say save your time, stick with sites like The Knot, Zola, and Wedding Wire. Those platforms are really built for this, and they have the reviews that will really help you make your decisions anyway. When it comes to budget specifics, AI doesn't know how much things cost in your specific market, but the trouble is it thinks it does. It will provide you with the most detailed budget breakdown and tell you that it is specific to the market that you're in. I've really found that this is one of those areas that it can give you the most confidently incorrect information. My guess is because there's so much information out there about wedding budgets, and math is pretty typically straightforward, right? So it thinks like, oh, I'm confident this is the breakdown of what it should be. And yes, of course, there are breakdowns. Again, this is why it's good as a starting point, but you really need to do your own research in your area about what vendor costs are to be able to determine if what ChatGPT or Claude is giving you is realistic. Even sites like The Knot and Zola get this wrong so frequently. And it's because these numbers are averages, right? So an average means that there's a lot of inputs that are well above and well below that average number. And so you really need to be comfortable with what your specific numbers are. AI is an amazing tool, and I want you to use it for wedding planning, but make sure you're doing it in a smart way. Again, you can get that free AI wedding planning cheat sheet with 30 prompts to help you use AI in a way that will actually work for your wedding. It covers the budget, timeline, design, vendor communication, and so much more. planningcollective.com/AI. And if you want to go even deeper than this guide, that's exactly what I built the Planning Collective membership for, and even have some new tools that will help you with your AI wedding planning journey. Inside, you'll find what I call the Pocket Planner. It works just like Claude or ChatGPT. You type in your question and you're going to get an answer. But the answers don't come from the entirety of the internet. They come from my actual wedding planning blueprint series. So it's all of my trainings, my timelines, my budget lessons, over 20 years of real wedding experience is what is pulling the answers together. So when you ask, what time should hair and makeup start for 6 bridesmaids and a 4 p.m. ceremony? You're getting an answer based on how I actually plan weddings, not a generic guess from a response on Reddit. And if you want to go even deeper on any of these answers, you click through the exact lesson or resource that it came from, and you always know where that information is, so you can verify it works for your specific situation. And the Pocket Planner is just one part of the membership. You also get my full wedding planning roadmap that walks you through from the very beginning through the very end, endless amounts of templates that you can edit and make your own. Ask Kate, where you can submit your specific wedding questions and get a personal video response from me with my answers, amongst many other resources within the membership. If it sounds like that's the kind of support that you need while you're planning your wedding, you can check out the full membership details at planningcollective.com/membership. And if you found this episode helpful, a quick rating or review would mean so much to me. Of course, subscribe so you get future episodes in your feed. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next episode.